We're now approximately 9 months away from the third MCU Spider-Man standalone film, Spider-Man No Way Home. And compared to what we knew with 9 months to go about other MCU films in the past, we know surprisingly little about this one so far, at least in terms of confirmed stuff. Is that partly because of the pandemic? Yeah. Is it partly because there are lots of big surprises and they're trying to hold their cards close to the chest? Potentially. But today, I wanted to compile in one place, partly for my own convenience as well, everything we know so far about this film. The plot, characters, casting, etc. And also then based on that, a couple of predictions of what I think is going on here. So, let's dive into this. Okay, first off, basic info. John Watts is directing, Giacchino doing the score, all or part of it will probably take place on Christmas based on some set photos, and it's coming out on December 17th, 2021. Interestingly, this means that it's coming out after WandaVision, obviously, but before Doctor Strange 2. Like WandaVision, this will be building into that film. There have been a lot of rumors for this movie, so it's important to distinguish between what is rumored and what's actually been confirmed, or at least has more validity behind it. Now, it has been confirmed that this will connect to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And our most direct confirmation that this will have a crazy multiverse alternate dimension story is Kevin Feige saying, in reference to No Way Home's plot, the biggest clue is the title of the second Doctor Strange movie. That's the biggest clue of where the Multiverse of Madness is taking us and how we're exploring that. The fact that Tom Holland has also said it's the most ambitious standalone superhero movie ever, also I feel like pretty much confirms that this is going to be a multiverse story, and not just another year of high school for Peter Parker. Though this movie is going to be set during Peter's senior year of high school. So in terms of other plot elements, obviously the Far From Home post-credit scene where Peter's identity is revealed and he's framed for murder will play a part in this in some capacity. Probably in a big way, with Feige saying it's going to be a Peter Parker story that has never been done before on film, due to that very public reveal. From some videos and photos from the set, you can also see Mysterio propaganda, which leads me to believe there's going to be a bit of a divide and controversy in public opinion of Spider-Man. Some people believe him, some people believe that Mysterio was a good guy and Spider-Man did order those murders, and that also indicates to me the potential that Mysterio could still be out there and appear at some point in this film. Maybe, as we'll get to with the rest of the cast, we could be looking at a Sinister Six situation here, but we'll see. A few little tidbits here. Zendaya mentioned in some interview that at one point her character is running away from aliens, so we may see some aliens in this film at some point. Some filming is also expected to be done in Iceland, make of that what you will. And although I believe it hasn't officially been confirmed, it appears Doctor Strange is going to be in this, based on the reports, and also that it's going to be tying into his next film. And I imagine he'd continue the trend of Tony Stark and Nick Fury filling that parental, father figure, superhero mentor kind of role for Peter. It also wouldn't surprise me if the way he's brought in is to help with Peter's secret identity problem, and he's there to make people forget about it or something like that, as there have been stories like that in the comics before. And maybe through that, somehow, that opens up the multiverse, accidentally in the process, and leads to other characters from different franchises coming in, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. And as we saw with WandaVision, sometimes my theories are a bit too grand. So we'll see. Let's talk about the cast in this. The confirmed ones are obviously Holland, Zendaya, Battleland, Revelori, Tomei, and Tom Holland's brother Harry in a cameo role. Then there's the Benedict Cumberbatch thing, which we talked about. It's been reported that Jamie Foxx is going to be reprising his role as Electro. Not confirmed, but it was reported by some usually pretty credible sources. And Alfred Molina is also reportedly coming back, which people feel Zendaya confirmed in an interview, but when I watched it, really, it's unclear whether or not she's even talking about Molina, and even if she was, it doesn't really confirm that he's in it, so that's still up in the air. And speaking of which, now let's just go through the other actors that are rumored or reportedly in this without much more confirmation beyond that. Charlie Cox has reportedly filmed scenes as Matt Murdock. Willem Dafoe will apparently return as Green Goblin. People have said the color schemes of the fake logos indicate that. Thomas Hayden Church is said to be returning as Sandman, and then Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Kirsten Dunst, and Emma Stone are all said to be appearing. Now, it's important to note, Tom Holland has straight up denied that Maguire and Garfield are in this, although I don't put too much stock in that, because what's he gonna do? Say that they are and give away the biggest surprise of the film? But I also don't put too much stock in that they are in it, because there hasn't been much evidence of it, so it's a bit up in the air. According to this tweet I saw, Andrew Garfield was in Atlanta when they were filming there because of some food delivery or something, but that isn't a great source, and even if it's true, it could be coincidence, but regardless, it doesn't seem completely implausible that they would be in this. This movie is apparently dealing with the multiverse, and it's said to be very ambitious, and the MCU continues to surprise us with what they're trying out and the crossovers they're doing, so I'm definitely not ruling it out. As opposed to if you said this a few years ago, it seems quite possible that they could show up. Would it be awesome? Yes. Absolutely would. Is that even a question? Also, Charlie Cox's Daredevil would be just as epic to me, honestly. Seeing him in the movies and returning after the show's cancellation, that'd be insane. Maybe he'd be Peter's lawyer, he's New York-based. It's not that crazy to think it could happen. Plus, I want it to happen. So I'm just putting it out there. Please happen. I miss you, Charlie. Also, a while back, John Watts was interested in having Kraven the Hunter be the main villain, but that was a while ago, and since then we've heard nothing about it. So, I doubt that'll happen, but it's worth noting. If it did happen, it could also play into that Sinister Six thing. Maybe Mysterio's still out there and he's got Vulture and Scorpion and Kraven the Hunter, and he's trying to bring in new villains through the multiverse or something. Who knows? Now here's where things get a bit more tricky, because based on some stuff that was said after the whole Sony MCU deal that broke down and then unbroke down, do you remember that? Because I'll be honest, I forgot about it until I was researching for this. I think this could have a bit more to do with Sony's Marvel Universe and less with the MCU's multiverse. I hope not, because I'm much more interested in the MCU stuff than the Sony stuff, but if they maybe can combine them in some way, then I guess that's good. But Feige said after the deal that Holland's Spider-Man would be able to cross cinematic universes going forward, meaning he could show up in Sony's Marvel movies. And the new relationship between the MCU and the Sony universe is said to be a call and answer situation, which means they're not very heavily connected, but there are details that connect them, meaning I guess they take place in the same world? So that would put Venom and Morbius in the MCU in a very loose way. But I'm not sure if that's stepped into effect yet, and maybe this film will serve as the connecting point between the two franchises. So they don't just have to say Venom was always in the MCU, but now there's a bit of a gateway to it. Some way, through dimensions or the multiverse, we can see a way for Holland's Spider-Man to appear in Sony's films. And maybe that was part of the deal of the MCU still being able to make Spider-Man films. That would explain this potential crossover of characters from the Sony films a bit more, to integrate it more into that world, even though those were past Sony movies that aren't connected to their current universe, but I guess it's better than nothing. I don't think they do it so Spider-Man leaves the MCU and goes to the Sony world, but more there's some sort of bridge or gateway now for him to go between them, or for them to cross over. I mean, if they were already supposed to be in the same world, that doesn't really work, and in Morbius you see Maguire Spider-Man on the wall, and if you have Maguire and Garfield, well then I'm not sure how that plays out. Ultimately, there are too many unknown factors to accurately predict it at this point. However, that will not stop me from trying to predict it. But I think this will both play into the upcoming multiverse story that WandaVision kind of hinted at a bit, although less so than we expected, and that will play a big part in Doctor Strange 2 and the MCU going forward, presumably. And it will also serve as a way to connect the Sonyverse to the MCU. I'm worried this might get a bit too crowded and focused on setting things up and connecting things and having fun cameos rather than being its own good story. But again, we know so little, we don't know what's true yet, so I'm staying hopeful that they know what they're doing, which I have good reason to because so far they've proven they do. Finally here, I do also want to mention, the MCU has been playing with these other franchise crossovers in a bit of a weird way as of late. We have J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson in the MCU, but he's not the same J. Jonah Jameson as the Raimi films, so I think that was just a little fun nod, because everyone knows that's one of the best casting choices in a comic book film ever. But then with Quicksilver and WandaVision, I really thought that was going to lead into some sort of solid multiverse connection, and spoiler alert for WandaVision, 3, 2, 1, it wasn't. He was just Ralph Boner. Who happened to look like the X-Men Quicksilver, but that was more of a reference for us, the audience, rather than something for this world. So even if these cameos do happen, I'd say don't go in thinking you know what they're going to be. Maybe Maguire and Garfield are in it, but in other roles, not as Spider-Man, or maybe as Spider-Man, but not the versions of them we know. And same with Melina and Fox. Maybe they will be those villains, but they potentially won't be the ones from their respective films. They could be from within the MCU already, or from other dimensions, but not the versions from those films. I just feel that'd be a bit of an odd choice given the potential to take the characters we already know and put them in this. So if they're gonna have these actors anyway, why not do the version we know? But who knows, maybe they have a big master plan for this. Knowing the MCU, they probably do. I'm just saying, after these two, don't expect to know in what kind of capacity these actors will be in this, even if they are confirmed. It could be a tiny cameo, could be a main role, could be the same characters, could be different. We don't know. But, all in all, I'm very excited for this film. Even if it was just another Spider-Man high school adventure, I'd still be excited based on the previous two. Love Homecoming, enjoyed Far From Home, but with this apparent craziness going on, I'm also excited just to get answers and find out what's happening, and potentially, although I'm not trying to get my expectations too high or too crazy, see a pretty ambitious and insane story. Also potentially seeing Charlie Cox's Daredevil back and on the big screen. I know of all this stuff, that's not what people are most excited about here, but goddamn that'd be so cool. Anyway, yeah, very excited. So, that's what we know so far about Spider-Man No Way Home, and a bit of what I think is going to happen. What do you think is going to happen here? Let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments. While you're at it, be sure to like this video, check out my Instagram and Twitter at BHL_Hudson, check out this podcast I did with a friend of mine where we talk about movies, TV shows, a bunch of nonsense. It's called The Poorly Planned Podcast, and subscribe for more videos like the one you just watched. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.